Hey everyone, it's Mark with Launchpad B again, and I've got a video today that's going to be a spin-off of another video that I did last week. What we're doing today is I'm going to be comparing the cameras on two different phones. Now, the phone that I've got here is a MOTO 7 Power. This is kind of an entry-level phone. I kind of got it from my kids. They retail for about $130 or so. On the other hand here, I've got a Pixel 4. Now these retail currently for about $900, and the Pixel phones have always been known for their amazing cameras. Now they do very well in low light and take amazing photos, but how do they do on video? How does a $100 phone compare to a $900 phone? And is it worth making the investment? Those of you that know me well know that I'm all about being budget conscious, finding ways to create great video content while maintaining a good budget. So here's what happened. Last week I created a video about using two lamps to create great lighting. And in the video I was going to show you how to take two lamps, set them up, and then take amazing video with really good lighting. Unfortunately, the camera that I was using was the MOTO 7. And I was using it straight out of the box without doing any kind of fluff to make it any better. And then I was kind of shooting it with the camera I'm using now, which is a professional grade camera, which looks amazing in a lot of different lighting scenarios. But when I put the two side by side, it was a huge contrast, and it kind of derailed the whole purpose of my video. Once you saw the video resolution on the MOTO phone and under the lighting circumstances, which there wasn't enough lighting, it looked really bad, and it kind of defeated the whole purpose of my video. So the video I'm going to do today, where we're comparing two different phones or phone cameras, is to determine whether it's worth making an investment on a more expensive phone with a better camera, and if you'll get better results. So the first problem we had with the MOTO phone was that it does very poorly in low light. And if you think about it from a technical standpoint, a sensor on a camera like the one I'm using, it's a pretty good size sensor. You think about a 35mm piece of film. That's how big the sensor is on my camera. But when you compare the sensor to the size of a sensor on a smartphone sensors are microscopic in comparison because they're so small. They don't do as well in low light. In order to help out the MOTO phone in this comparison, we're using two lamps, but I'm putting them side by side. We're basically doubling the light output from the lamps instead of putting one on the opposite side. And we'll see if that helps improve for the MOTO phone. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to close the window blinds behind me a little bit more. Having a very bright background, the MOTO phone is trying to balance out. It's looking at the entire frame and trying to identify the best setting for light. So what's happening then is that I'm underexposed and the windows it's trying to expose the windows properly, and that also makes the video look worse. So by closing the windows behind me a little bit, it'll allow the MOTO to have a little bit better performance. So I'm going to go ahead and place the MOTO phone onto my tripod mount here. So this is what the MOTO phone looks like when I'm kind of massaging the environment to help the sensor out. I've got a lot more light now next to me. I've dimmed the lights in the back of the room. I've also put on the overhead light a little bit to help out in hopes of getting better video. Now we're shooting this at 1080 at 30 frames a second. Now another trick that you'll see videographers do is they'll shoot at 4K. Now I know I've been telling you in other videos that shooting at 1080 is just fine. I am rendering at 1080, but I'm shooting this particular section in 4K. The phone gathers more information, more info on the pixels, so when I go to actually render the video, my software will then take that 4K and compress it down to 1080. And again, it's just to give my software more to work with. So this is what the MOTO is capable of doing at 4K and then downgrading to 1080. So now we're shooting on the Pixel 4. This is supposed to be one of the best cameras on the market, and we're shooting at 1080. Now the Pixel does a little bit better because of the software that's driving it. It has a slightly larger sensor, but for the most part, it's not a huge difference in size than it is from the MOTO. And you can be the judge. Does the video quality look better on the Pixel? Or does it look better on the MOTO? And just like the MOTO, I went ahead now and set the Pixel at 4K. We are downscaling it to 1080, but again, the software has a lot more to choose from when it's setting up the pixels. And again, here's going to be a comparison. This is what it looks like in 4K on the Pixel. And here's what it looks like in 4K with the MOTO. And is it really worth the price difference? So we're back to shooting on my professional grade camera, and I hope that this video has been helpful. It gives you the ability to compare an entry-level cell phone camera to a higher-end cell phone camera to make a decision on whether it's really worth making the investment. Now, do know that I had to make a lot more effort to light the room and to kind of set up the room properly to get a little bit more out of it. But I just wanted to show, maybe do a better showing of how to get good lighting using 2 lamps and an overhead light for your next video. Hey everyone, I'm currently editing this video, and I realized that I forgot to talk about something that's really important when it comes to 4K files. They're a lot larger than a 1080 file. They're almost double the size in some situations than what you would normally get on a 1080 file. So if you're attempting to edit a video using a regular PC and you're using software that's built into the computer, it's going to have a hard time with 4K content. As a matter of fact, my old editing PC wouldn't even touch 4K. It would just freeze and do nothing. Now, if you're working with a site like clipchamp.com, it will allow you to import a 4K file. It'll take a little bit longer than if you're doing a 1080 file, but once you've got it imported, you'll be able to drag it onto the timeline, and then you'll be able to manipulate it like any other file. When you go to render, it's going to take a little bit longer, but again, the benefit of clipchamp.com is that it's doing most of the work for you, most of the heavy lifting for you, so that you can get away with doing 4K. Now, do note that when you go to export your file on clipchamp.com, the highest resolution you can export to is at 1080, which is essentially the same thing I did, taking a 4K file and downscaling it to 1080. So it'll be the same thing I did, and you'll get a 1080 file on the back end.